Hello! I have an exciting new announcement for you guys about my language learning and about my language learning. So I am learning a new language and I am gonna open up my books. So let me preface this by saying that the reason I'm starting a new language, there we go, is that I realized that it's been a long time since I started a new language. And one of the main questions that I get is, how do you start learning a new language? And I'm starting to think about it and I'm like, how do you start learning a new language today? Because when I started mine, it was a while ago and the resources that were available were completely different. And of course, I didn't know everything that I know now. So I'm learning a new language. I have two different language books coming in here. And I'm not really sure which one's gonna come out first. But it's my new language one. So I have a French one too that's in the other package. It should be. I'm learning Mandarin. I'm so excited. So if you saw my last video on karate and language, then you know why I'm learning Mandarin. And so I have this. And this is, so I'm starting, which one is this? Because I think I ordered two. This one is the volume 1. So this one is like an introductory book to Mandarin and like writing each of the characters. And then I also ordered a book that is like the first 100 words or so in Mandarin. So that might be in here. Let's see. Or, actually I have a French book coming too. So let's see what we got here. So we've got, alright, so this is my other Chinese book. This is writing. And this is so simplified. This actually is like a kid's book, so I'm like, I'm gonna start with this because I have no idea how to start learning a language of another orthography. I tried once before and I know that it's essentially all the same skills. I've got to read, write, listen, and speak, but I'm gonna put my language learning skills to the test learning Mandarin. And yeah, I'm just gonna start with this because it seemed like a pretty simple way to get into it. And I'm experimenting with some apps and stuff too. And I got this book too. So this is my French book. And I found this and I thought it would be really cool. This looks like it's kind of old, actually. It's like kind of yellowed. But this is supposed to be new. But it has these stories and then it has them in French. And then it has the translation in English below it, and it's like word for word. So instead of reading and then having to stop and look up words, I've got it all right here. So I should be able to just read right through it. It's not, like, my first impression of this is that it's not really appealing to look at. Like, I don't know, I'm not as excited about it now as, like, these books. This book, I use the kids' book with all the colors and everything. I just like colors. But, even the other one, like, I don't know, there's something about it. It seems almost calculated. It's the font, too. The font is very much just a standard font, like there's not a lot to it, and most of these are, but yeah, I guess it's just the spacing too of all of the words. It's like a block all the way across, you know. It's like there's just not a lot of style to it, or it's not like when you read a book and then you're looking at the paragraphs and you're like long paragraphs, short paragraphs, like the flow. I feel like when I'm reading it this way, I'm not going to get as much of that experience from it, if that makes sense. We'll see. I've never read something like this before, and so it's gonna be my first going through this, and I'll share with you guys what I discovered with this. But yeah, these are my books. So, as you saw, I got 2 books. Well, I got 3. I got the one for French, but we'll be focusing today on Mandarin. So I'm using these, and I'm also using a couple of apps for my language. So I have these basically like my textbooks, and for writing, so I haven't started writing this one yet. I have started writing in this one, and this is the one for kids. So this is like my first 100 words. It's like a kindergarten workbook basically, and it's cool because it's making me think about, like, I'm really big into how the native language influences the new languages, and it's cool because I'm going through this. I'm thinking like, okay, going through these basics and like how you would learn this as a kid. And here, so you can see they have like the first line, it doesn't have anything. Well, this does because I filled it out. So I'm in kindergarten again. No, let's see, here we go. Kindergarten. So the first line, it has nothing. And then the second one, it has the characters so you can trace them. And then it has here where you can start a little bit of the character and then you add a piece to each one. And then you try it on your own, and then you trace it, and then you do it on your own. So I'm thinking as I'm going through this, like, this is interesting, and like how language is taught in kindergarten and like first grade, because that is what we have them do. And it's a lot of repetition going through that to learn the alphabet, or in this case, like the characters. But it's really interesting how this is that same process, and how now I am in that memorization stage of doing that. Well, I started doing this shortly after that, though. I noticed that as I was going through here, I was really overwhelmed with my kindergarten level book. And so I started thinking, okay, how did I learn Spanish, and how did I learn, how did I learn French? I really haven't finished learning French, but that's a topic for another video. But how did I learn those 2 languages? And then I thought, okay, so I had some kind of instruction, so I need that. Like, I need to know. It really wasn't enough even just to see like, oh, draw this line. So I was like, okay, well, do I go from left to right, from right to left? What do I do? So I did some research, and I found one new app, and then I'm also using Duolingo. So the new app that I found, which at least is new to me, is Skritter, and it's really cool because I can practice the actual writing of Chinese. So it's cool because I can go into here, and then it shows, like, I don't know if you can see, it shows yi. But then I can go into the teach me option, and it says the word, as you can hear there. And then I go, it says, okay, yi, it means one, once, as an article. And then I keep going, and it says, what is the pinyin? And that is another thing that I had to learn, is like, what is pinyin and what is the other one, I believe is character. It is called character. But the pinyin, and then it shows you this page where you can just copy that. So then you see that there, and then you just copy it, and then it's like, good, you did that correctly. And then you can do it again. You go to the next one, and then you make the character, and then you do it again. So it's all that repetition, and again, okay, and that's it. And then you do it without the tracing. So essentially this is the same process as, and then you keep going for the other characters and the other vocabulary, whatever else you do. So it's cool because that is the same process as this. And that one just had one that was yi, and I'm sure my pronunciation is horrible at this point, but it's okay. It's gonna improve over the years. But it's cool because it's the same process as in here, although that was just the one line for yi, but it's the same as, like, this one has more, so there's more complex, and it shows you each step there so you can see. And then that app, it does the same thing, but you can actually practice it on there. So what I do is I go on there and I practice my writing with correction, and then I can also hear it and I can see it, and I can, you know, get a little bit more. It shows you like this doesn't really show a lot. It kind of has like, it has the pinyin, so you can see how it is spelled or pronounced in the Roman alphabet, but it really doesn't, it doesn't have anything you can listen to. So it's nice to have that, and it's the same process. So I use that, I learn what the character is, and then I reinforce it with practicing on here. So that's how I'm doing that. And this book, so this one I have not started writing in yet, but I have started reading it. And I read just the introduction really, but it seems like it's going to be a good book for grammar. And I really like that it shows like all these visuals over here. And so it shows like the ancient and modern Chinese. And you can see the characters and how they've changed over the years, which is really interesting to me. I want to also read more about Chinese culture and the language and how all of that is integrated, and really understand the language from that perspective, because there is just like such a rich history and culture within this language because it's so old. So it goes a little bit into that. And then also the writing, this is like the grammar part, is it shows you this, it's like full grammar lesson here. And then you have practice. Later on, this is very similar to what's in that kids book, the practice. And yeah, so I'll go through that. I think, I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna work all this together yet. I'm still learning, but I have that. And then I have Duolingo. So Duolingo is an app that I used for my Spanish and my French, and I used it to supplement the education that I was getting in my classes. For Spanish, I took several Spanish classes, years of Spanish classes, and I'm still doing them. And then my French, I took private classes, and then I just used that to supplement that, and I ended up going through the whole Duolingo tree with that, and I didn't finish my classes. I'm going back through that, but I have been exposed to at least all of the basics of French, and I have found that that's really helpful for my understanding. I can understand a decent amount, so that's why I went back to Duolingo, because it helped me before, and so I think it's a good place for that repetition and just learning that basic vocabulary. And then in addition to these books and to Skritter, I think I'm gonna be off to a pretty good start. So what I'm doing here is the very beginning. This is my beginning. I just did the first one. And so these are nice too, and it's changed quite a bit since the last time I used it, which was like 5 years ago, the last time I used it seriously. And so now there's these tips, and there was some kind of lesson before, but I don't think I ever used the lesson before. I don't think it was as accessible as this on the phone. So this is nice too, because it also just reinforces those grammar concepts and the definitions and all of that here that I'm also reading in this book. And then also the Skritter app has elements of that in it as well, some of that grammar. So each of these resources has different pieces in it that are contributing to my learning of that language. And so like with these books, they are my physical practice, so they can actually write the characters, and it's my tangible practice. And then I have Skritter that is really teaching me those characters. And then I have Duolingo that is just exposure to the language. And then at some point I am going to work with a tutor so I can actually practice speaking. But I feel like, I don't know, I just feel pretty happy right now with my independent studies, and I feel like I'm getting enough right now that I just need to go through this stage of building my basic vocabulary and my own understanding. And then when I'm ready to work with a tutor, maybe a few months from now, because I'm going to be progressing slowly through this because I got a lot of things going on. But I did want to start it because I know that learning a language takes time, and I know that having time and doing just a little bit each day or a little bit every few days is what really is going to help me learn, because it's going to embed it into my mind, and I'm going to learn more over time if I do it that way rather than if I just do like a study marathon. I'm just going for long-term learning. But yeah, I do plan to integrate some work with a tutor at some point, and then also probably take Chinese classes in my Oregon State classes in the fall going into next year as I take my French classes. So I'll be taking sort of beginner level classes in both languages at the same time, but the French classes really are going to be review. So especially the first year, and then the second year is going to be mostly review, somewhat new, but I've already had quite a bit of practice in French, so I'm at that level. Even though I'm still at that beginner level French, I can understand quite a bit and I have that exposure to it, and I have had practice with a teacher in that language and with like working on it. So it's really not like starting two languages from the beginning at the same time, which I don't think that I would do, because it would be a lot, and it's enough to focus on one at least to get through those basics. And then I feel like after that you can have kind of a few languages to work on, because they do take years to develop to a high level of proficiency. So yeah, that is what I'm up to, and I'm gonna keep you guys updated on my Mandarin studies, my Spanish studies, and my French, and even my English as I am improving in my 4 languages over the many, many years to come.